everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our technical assistance office hours. Today, we have several guests with us, and we're going to start with our guest, Joanne Sprague, who is here from the Everlaw for Good program. She'll be sharing all about the program, and then we're going to go and learn about how different organizations are using the program. If you're unfamiliar with LSNTAP, my name is Shelley Reed. I am the manager of the Legal Services National Technology Assistance Project, and we are here to learn a little bit about technology that can help us serve our clients better. So, Joanne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Shelley. Thanks for having me here. Really excited to share a bit about Everlaw and our Everlaw for Good program. And thanks to all of you for being here and for your interest in the work that we do. So as Shelley mentioned, my name is Joanne Sprague. I have the privilege of running the Everlaw for Good program here at Everlaw. We don't really have time for a full demo, a live demo here, and I want to mostly get out of the way so that you all can hear from the other legal aid organizations that I think you're actually here to hear from about how they use our platform. But I just wanted to give a quick appetizer on what Everlaw does and how the Everlaw program works. So I will go straight into my slides. So Everlaw was founded in 2010 as a cloud-native e-discovery platform. It is designed to streamline the discovery and investigation process through modern technology. Our customers are primarily law firms, corporations, and government agencies, and increasingly, we're proud to share nonprofit organizations. We have more than 35 legal services organizations in our customer base, and we are always looking to support more. So very excited to be here and be able to share about the program and how you all can get access to the tool if that's useful to you. I want to touch just very briefly on the mission of Everlaw, which is to promote justice by illuminating truth. We are a for-profit company, and we do sell our platform to for-profit entities, but mission is really at the core of what we do and of the culture that we have. So I just have this quote from our founder and CEO, AJ, that we believe in the rule of law. However imperfect, we believe that it is the right framework for civil society. And we believe that justice is served by truth, driven by factual evidence. So, there are a lot of companies out there, for-profit, nonprofit, et cetera. But one of the reasons that we've invested in this Everlaw for Good program for many years is that this is really core to our mission and to why we exist in the world. Okay, so what does Everlaw do? So we are a platform that has quite a bit of feature capabilities. I'm not going to go through everything, but I'm going to share a bit about a few tools that might be relevant to you all as organizations. It's sort of divided into ingestion and processing of documents. That's our bread and butter. That's what we're, really have a lot of expertise in, to complex review management, advanced analytics, and AI-driven insights. And all the way up to narrative building and deposition and trial preparation when you move from sort of the discovery and review process into preparing your work product. So a few capabilities that I'll just mention briefly with a couple of screenshots to give you a little bit of a sense of the UI. So we have a very strong expertise, as mentioned, in uploading and processing documents. So as a cloud-based platform, we have a number of cloud connectors. So if you receive a production from opposing counsel or you get a bunch of documents from your client, you don't have to download to your computer or find a place to store them. They can be directly uploaded to the Everlaw platform from usually wherever they are currently stored. We also on upload OCR all scanned or handwritten documents so that they become text searchable in the platform. We provide deduplication so that you never have to hopefully never have to review a document more than once, as well as a number of customizable options for things like email threading, family attachments, grouping, etc. And then we also automatically transcribe audio and video files on upload. So the idea is to make every document that you upload searchable and reviewable very easily on the platform. Secondly, we have a number of advanced data analytics capabilities to help you get a sense of what's in your document corpus very quickly and a sense of what might be missing. So as examples, there's much more than this, but we have instant visual search capabilities. Gone are the days when you had to know code or advanced Boolean functionality in order to be able to search for what's relevant in your document corpus. You can put in a keyword. We have a bunch of logical operators. You can search by document type, by review work product, or by metadata to cull down from your document corpus into the portions of the documents that you might want to manually review first. We also have a number of data visualization tools that provide an overview of what's in your document corpus. So you can look by file type or file path. You can see different custodians or parties that might be relevant in your document corpus. We also have clustering data visualization, so you can get a sense of the types of concepts that are in there, or the types of parties or custodians of data that might be relevant. And this is all interactive, so you can click in and click out and filter on those pieces of documentation to get a very quick assessment of what's in your set of documents. Next, we have document review. So this is a very high-level view of our review window. There's a lot of customizable features. You can also edit the sort of side navigation to remove review features that aren't relevant to you if it's overwhelming, to get down to a really simplified view of what you need. But among our review capabilities include highlights. So if you were to do a keyword search or a party search, and then pull up a document for a review based on that search, you would have automatic highlights of the keywords that you had looked for, so you can get very quickly to the portion of the document that's relevant for you. You can make annotations that are shareable with other folks, co-counsel, or other users in your organization. We provide translation capabilities in more than 100 languages. A lot of document management and organization capabilities, such as coding and binders, so that you can organize your documents in a way that's effective for you and customized to you. Redaction capabilities, both manual and batch, to make redaction much easier and more efficient, as well as a number of in-platform collaboration features. So, you never have to download a document and send it via an unsecured email to, another user or co-counsel, but it's all available within the platform. And then very quickly, I'll touch on Story Builder, which is once you get past reviewer discovery and you're actually starting to get into narrative building and trial preparation or deposition preparation, we have a number of integrated features that can help you do that much more seamlessly than having to do it in a different set of technology or tooling. So every time you find a piece of evidence when you're doing review that you think is relevant, you can add that to your story. And then you can go to our Story Builder tool, see those all in a chronological timeline, filter all those documents by what's relevant to you, and then start turning that into a draft. We have essentially what I like to think of as Google Docs for lawyers. It's an online cloud-based collaborative word processing tool that you can use to start to draft your trial narrative, put together a deposition outline, draft a statement of facts, whatever you need, and you can drag and drop your evidence directly into those drafts, so you have it right there, all available and integrated for you. Very quickly, I'll also touch on our generative AI feature suite, which we just released to general availability in October of last year after a year in beta. Anyone on this call who was at the LSC Innovations and Technology Conference last night might have seen me demo some of these features. But we divide them into two areas: our review assistant and a writing assistant. Our review assistant is helpful in the review process. So it does things like batch document summarization, coding suggestions based on natural language. So you don't have to train a model to suggest codes. You can just tell it the type of code that you want and ask for suggestions. Topic extraction, sentiment analysis, and also Q&A. So you can ask a document questions and it'll tell you if that has the answers. All of these review tools are done within the four corners of the document at hand, which helps to reduce hallucinations and make it unlikely, nothing's going to be coming from the open web. Second part of our AI assistant is our writing assistant. This is available within the Story Builder tool that I just mentioned, and that allows you to analyze and synthesize evidence that you've pulled out, help draft documents or outlines. So you want to put together a factual background or a cast of characters or a timeline, it can help you do that. And then it can also act as sort of a thought partner to identify inconsistencies or find additional supporting evidence. For these generative AI features, we call them an AI assistant because they are really designed to act as sort of a smart intern or a law clerk, right? Can do repeatable tasks very, very quickly, but still definitely require review and double checking. But this is really meant to be sort of a thought partner for you so that you can go back and forth with it and sort of analyze and interrogate its work. It's also, we find it really valuable for these assistant tools to be integrated into an eDiscovery platform like this. So they benefit from all the security and trust features that we've built in by design to our platform. And as part of that, our AI assistant will never use any documents on the platform or prompts that are put in to help train any models. So this is not like putting your documents into ChatGPT. It's going to be a very different, much more secure experience. I want to touch just very briefly on Everlaw's approach to customer success. So we have a really holistic 360 view of how we support our customers. We recognize that discovery is a complicated process, and particularly for resource-constrained teams. So we have tried to make our platform very intuitive and easy to use, but we also provide a variety of supports. So if you were to come onto the platform, we would help get your team up and running through a customized onboarding for your team. We have a user education team that really specializes in providing a lot of training resources that are free and unlimited. These are both live and on demand and in a variety of learning environments, from written documentation all the way up to video. Our support team is also unlimited free support, almost 24/7. And these folks are really specialized experts in both the Everlaw platform and in eDiscovery as a practice. So you can call in or submit a ticket and get very quick and relevant support for any troubleshooting needs that you might have. And then myself and the very lean Everlaw for Good team are also here to provide strategic guidance and recommendations and help you, maximize the impact that you have on the platform through work like this with Shelley's help to bring folks together and help them learn about the platform. Okay, I'm going to get out of your way in a very quickly, but I just want to quickly touch on the Everlaw for Good program and what we do, how it can be useful to nonprofit organizations. So you all are very familiar with these statistics, but the Everlaw for Good program's mission is to help level the playing field for justice. The way that we try to support reducing the justice gap is by reducing the financial barriers to legal assistance and by making cases more efficient through our platform so that organizations like yours can take on more of them and represent more clients more effectively. The program's been around since 2017, so about half the time that the company has been in existence. And in that time, we've supported almost 200 organizations, more than 35 of which are legal aid organizations. We're getting close to that 40 mark, which I'm very excited about. We've supported more than 400 cases and provided more than $3.5 million worth of in-kind product donated. Here are just a sample of some of our nonprofit partners. We also support pro bono practices of law firms with the essentially same offer. And so some of these you'll recognize from the panel today, but we're growth focused. So really trying to support as many organizations as we possibly can. And then the benefits. So the way that the program works is you apply, and if you're accepted, which we try to be very inclusive about, we don't have a lot of heavy qualification criteria. So almost all legal aid organizations qualify. You receive access to the Everlaw platform free of charge up to a data cap with 80 to 90% discounts for larger matters. So if you have a very large database, you'll get a highly reduced rate. That includes full platform access, unlimited databases. So for every case that you have that has a discovery need, that free access will reset. And then unlimited licenses. So we don't have a maximum number of seats or a maximum time frame. We're never going to kick you off the platform right in the middle of your case. As I mentioned, we have unlimited support and training at no extra cost. This is the same folks who receive calls from, big law firms and major government agencies. Will provide the same level of support to you all. And we really strive to have a quick turnaround on applications. So if you were to say today, Joanne, I really want to be part of this program, you submit some very basic information to me and we can turn you around within a matter of hours or days. And then we also provide a dedicated login only Everlaw for Good community so that conversations like this can happen on a more regular basis if you have questions or troubleshooting or just want to connect with other organizations that are doing this kind of work. And then new as of October, we also, our Everlaw AI assistant is the first feature suite we've ever had on the platform where we actually charge additionally just because it's such an expensive feature suite to run. And we sell those to our commercial customers as a bundle of AI credits that you then draw down against. For Everlaw for Good customers, we provide a bundle of several $1,000s worth of credits free of charge. So for folks who are interested in that, we can also get you set up with AI assistant. And with that, I will stop. I am here to answer questions, but I think the real main event here is the organizations that already use our platform that can share a bit more. So I will turn it back over to Shelley.
Awesome, Jan. We did have a question in the chat while you were presenting, and that was about translation. And the question is, how reliable is the translation feature? So can you provide some information on that feature?
Yeah, absolutely. So we we do translations through an API. It's either through AWS's translate feature or Google's. You can choose which one you want to use. And so it's as reliable as those features, essentially those functions. So this is not the kind of translation that you would want to submit to court, but for review purposes, for understanding, for keyword searches, for getting an idea of what's in the document to understand if you do want to pay an official certified translation provider, it's very effective. We've gotten really positive feedback that this is really, really useful for folks who, are trying to get a sense of what's in their documents without having to hire, or have on staff someone who speaks that language. I hope that helps
Awesome.
answer the question.
That's great. And we have another question. Sorry if this should have been obvious from your presentation, but can this platform be used for eDiscovery, document review and productions?
Yes, that's what we do. That is our specialty area. So you're in the right place.
Yes, and it's not a dumb question, right? Because we all have different terms. Many, people are moving away from the e-discovery to just discovery. So, not a dumb question or a silly question at all, because the industry hasn't made a full commitment to one or the other yet either. All right, so now is the chance that we get to hear from several users, and I'm just going to go in order as they appear on my screen. So we're going to start with Dave. Dave, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do, what kinds of cases you work on, and how you're using Everlaw in your office?
Sure. Hey everyone, my name's Dave Mauch. I'm an attorney with Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. I do employment and farm worker law and a little bit of 1983 stuff. And right now we are primarily using Everlaw at TRLA for multi-plaintiff farm worker cases and for complex 1983 cases involving like government policies and large numbers of documents we get from FOIAs, for example.
Awesome. And I'm going to move next to Rachel. Would you mind introducing yourself to the audience and again sharing how you're using Everlaw and what you do?
Sure. My name is Rachael Pashkowski. I'm a paralegal with Columbia Legal Services. I've been working here about 27 years. And let's see here. We mostly use Everlaw right now for complex litigation. We do impact litigation on behalf and legislative advocacy on behalf of immigrants and folks who are have been involved with the justice system. And let's see here. We're mostly using Everlaw right now during the investigation and discovery phases of the cases, but we're also starting to move into Story Builder and using the narrative there.
Awesome. All right. So moving into some other questions, let's start with what kinds of files or what types of files and file volumes are you usually dealing with in your cases? And we'll stay in the same order. We'll start with Dave.
Sorry about that. Types of files and file volumes, we deal with primarily in our cases a lot of paper or paper-like discovery. So in the cases we're working on, typically we're dealing with PDFs, although we do have some cases where we also have databases to review, whether typically like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. In terms of volume, the big case I'm working on right now, we have, let me just look at it. We have about 2,000 documents, and I believe we have about 23,000 pages in that matter.
Awesome.
So it really depends on the phase of the case, but the largest cases, I think we've had about 86 megs of data, and we're also using, getting a lot of paper and paper-like documents, so lots of PDFs and scans of things. Some of the investigation work we've done has been with smaller municipalities, and they tend to produce, instead of like an OST email file, they tend to produce like a 9,000 page PDF of all of their emails. So that's, you know, a challenge that we've dealt with in the past, that I think Everlaw has been really helpful in helping us sort out those kinds of productions, particularly because when people are producing PDFs of emails, a lot of times the attachment documents to those are embedded within the PDF. And so if you just look at the PDF, you don't necessarily know that those attachments are in there and how to get to them.
Awesome. And Leon?
Hi, I'm Leon. I use he, him pronouns, and I work for Legal Aid Services of Oregon. I'm a paralegal who predominantly focuses on housing, and we use Everlaw mostly for high-impact litigation and multi-plaintiff cases. And for our file types, we've gotten pretty much everything from Excel, PDF, videos, pretty much anything you can think of. And the largest production we've gotten from opposing counsel has been about 4 terabytes of data. But most of our production that we receive is usually between 50 to 100 gigabytes. So it's been very helpful to manage it through a system like this.
Awesome. And thank you, Leon, for introducing yourself. I'm sorry, I was so eager to jump into the questions that I just jumped right over you. So I apologize for that. All right, well, since you were on screen last, why don't we start with you with the next question? How are you addressing your discovery and narrative, or how were you addressing your discovery and narrative building needs before you started using Everlaw?
Very differently. We mostly used SharePoint, so we would have multiple folders and organize through there. The cases I work on usually have multiple law firms involved. So we have legal aid services, our sister organization, and then a private attorney as well. And so it was kind of an issue to give access to SharePoint. It was kind of a difficult thing. We also were quite analog, as most of our client documents were paper. So we would just receive a bunch of documents and boxes. And so we do a lot of direct scanning. So quite a different organization system prior.
And let's go to Dave. What were you doing for your discovery needs prior to Everlaw?
Also SharePoint, just we had like just everything was on SharePoint. We were using SharePoint without any real kind of cohesive sense of organization, sorting, tagging. For narrative building, using like Word docs to make a proof chart, or I had been using mind mapping software for a while, although that was difficult because it wasn't integrated with the actual document library we were using.
And Rachel, how are you doing your discovery needs?
Well, when I first came to CLS, I suggested we could index all the documents in Word, and this was revolutionary. And that was sort of the start of our journey towards eDiscovery and discovery management. And we, over time, we've used concordance, we've used case map, we've used relativity, we've used Word and Excel, and we had until just about the beginning of the pandemic, we weren't even on SharePoint. We used, we had internal servers, but we did the same thing. Like we had a lot of scans of documents and we'd make multiple copies of them and they'd go in different folders and we'd have indexes and we'd list in Word or in Excel all of the data to make our proof charts that was available. CaseMap did a great job of keeping track of people and evidence, but it wasn't great for storing stuff. Because you had to keep all the documents you were referring to in a very specific folder. If anything changed or got moved, then it would break all the links within CaseMap to those documents. Concordance was really great for some things. It was great for tagging documents, but once you would tag them, there was really nothing else to do with them. So it was a great way to access like a whole bunch of documents that you'd reviewed and tagged and put stuff on, but then you couldn't manipulate them in any way or bring them into your narrative about the case. And relativity was very much the same as concordance. It required a high level of experience and information, and it was also obscenely expensive. So we, having kind of blown through a whole bunch of different options, I think our litigation director about 5 years ago, made a connection with Everlaw, and the interface was, I think, more intuitive than any of those other platforms. And the range of what it can do sort of gets some of the best of those other platforms as well.
Awesome. Anything else anyone wants to add on that question? All right, so let's move to the next thing. Rachel, since you talked about looking at other platforms, what helped your organization make the change and adopt Everlaw? I know you mentioned that it was more intuitive, but what really pushed the organization to go to an actual, a discovery platform?
I would say definitely is the intuitive interface that has been the most helpful thing for us. We're talking about attorneys. We have a high level of distrust for our systems. And a high level of distrust in general for automation of processes. And so I would say we're not probably using all of those things to the best that we could. And we're still in the sort of halfway through the adoption process, but we are starting to develop some in-house expertise on using the program. And yeah, I'd say we're about 50% fully adopted, fully invested. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes some time to develop the expertise, and it also with any platform, and it also takes some time to develop the trust that system's going to be there for you.
Awesome. Yeah, and how would you say, or why did your organization make the change and start using Everlaw?
Mostly out of case necessity. For the amount of discovery we had, it just did not really seem possible to not use some form of eDiscovery platform. And a previous attorney had heard of Everlaw and had heard good things from other colleagues. So that's where we definitely started that route and moving towards the Everlaw for Good program. And I think trying to get it kind of more adopted was definitely that just getting hands-on training. How we've kind of structured it is kind of like managing up. So I tend to do all the training and getting the resources, and then I bring it back to my team and give a presentation about it so that they can get the feel for it. And that seemed to work really well and helped kind of address varying levels of tech knowledge within our organization. Yeah.
Awesome. Dave, is your story any different on why your organization chose to adopt the use of Everlaw?
No, I mean, I think a case necessity. We needed an eDiscovery management platform for a farm worker case that we had because we had a bunch of our clients' cell phones where we needed to store their like cell phone data in a place that made sense, and manage it in a way that made sense, and Everlaw fit that need. I think the other thing is like, we're a pretty big organization, and sometimes that can mean that it's like slow to create change, or difficult to create change sometimes. But one of the things that really helped us get it going was like, A, the prices. So you can't beat the price, which is, you know, all the stuff you get for free. And B, like, I think Joanne and the other folks made the adoption process really simple and streamlined. Like, it really did not take a ton of, it was not a huge admin lift to get us going and on the platform. And then once we were on the platform, most of it's pretty self-managed, which has been great.
That's awesome. So since you're here, Dave, I want to start with you on what products and features do you use the most in Everlaw, and what have you found the most useful?
So I'm mostly using Everlaw in the discovery process, both like as doc review. So we'll get in a bunch of documents, and when you're reviewing a document, you can tag it as hot, warm, or cold, just as like a universal like tag that helps you sort what the important evidence is. You can create notes in a document. One thing that I do when I'm reviewing documents is I'm often so Everlaw lets you create a number of codes that you can use, which are kind of like tags for documents. And so I can note that this document is for plaintiff A, this document is for plaintiff B. And then I also use a lot of, when I start a case, I'll create what are called binders in Everlaw, which are kind of like digital folders where you can drop a bunch of different documents. And so, you know, for example, I'll get a document and I'll think, oh man, I really want to use this in the deposition of this person and this person, or I really want to use this on summary judgment. And I'll start kind of putting things into binders as I'm going through the case, so that when it comes time to take the depo of the boss, I've already got a list of the documents I want to use, and I can use that to kind of help build my depo outline. The other thing that we do, I think, with Everlaw that fills a need that we were struggling with a little bit was production. Sometimes we typically, on our farm worker cases, don't have a ton of stuff that we're going to produce, but sometimes we do. And SharePoint, like OneDrive, it's a pain, and sometimes your organization has set up your access such that you can't share with people outside of your organization, which is the case with us. And so Everlaw, you can pull documents into a production and share that with the other side, even if they don't have Everlaw, and they can download the documents. And so we've used it for that as well.
That's awesome. And many people, I'm sure, are familiar with the struggles of SharePoint and permission levels. So, Rachel, what features do you use in Everlaw, and which ones do you find the most useful?
A lot of the ones that Dave talked about, we also use the coding. We do a lot of coding, and of the discoveries that comes in. I have used it for production. I did not choose to do the file transfer protocol just because I was under a deadline, and if anything went wrong, I was worried about not meeting the deadline. But I like the file transfer, the secure FTP site possibility for doing document production because of the SharePoint things that have already been named. And we're starting to delve into Story Builder quite a bit to develop kind of a timeline of the case, and use it sort of like as the proof chart. And I would say we're still experimenting with that a little bit, how to best do that on a day-to-day basis. It's been super helpful for categorizing documents by type. We still are seeing quite a lot of handwritten documents or forms that are partially handwritten. And so it's nice to be able to say, like, this is a timesheet or a field code, a timesheet from a field, or somebody's a discipline or warning document. So we can sort of categorize those and pull them all up if we want to look at all of them together and see what they're telling us as a whole document set. And what else are we using it for? I recently used the document comparison to compare a whole lot of contracts over time, and that was super helpful. I would totally do. I stumbled on a random training about how to do that, and that was really, really helpful because you know they look alike, and if you're going to put them all up on a screen at the same time, then you have to kind of go back and forth and read back and forth. But Everlaw sort of, I don't really know what to say, it like stacks them on top of each other and then surfaces the ones that are different on different pages, which is amazing. I wish that it would do it for those handwritten documents. The ones where people, you know, I've got like 15 discipline forms and they all look the same except for what's been written on them is different. So to be able to sort out the different reasons that happened would be useful. But yeah, I would strongly recommend the document comparison. The parts that I haven't been able to use very well yet sometimes are like the document clustering, just because of the nature of the cases that we get. Some of the biggest clusters might be like 5,000 emails emailing timesheets back and forth, because that's what there's the most of. But maybe, and I just haven't figured out maybe how to separate those out or how to eliminate those from the cluster.
Awesome. And Leon, what products and features are you using in Everlaw, and which ones are you finding the most useful?
Yeah, I've been using a lot of the ones that others have mentioned as well. I love the coding feature. It is so helpful. We code. We've created a whole bunch of lists of our own codes, from RFPs to if the document's been reviewed to general document matter. I love the keyword search. That's really helpful for quick review. So I set up something all my documents will always say when I open up the review panel, if there's about 10 terms that I think will be the most relevant. And it's a great way to determine right off the bat if this is a document I need to really spend the time to go through. I also love the assignment feature. So you can create assignments for everyone in the platform to review a batch of documents. This has been really helpful to just get people going and starting that review process, and also kind of being able to manage how much is being done at one time. I've also found it really helpful for people who are maybe struggling with the intuitiveness of Everlaw, that just creating an assignment and sticking them on that is like the easiest way for them to start getting that feeling. I think people also just love that there's a little percentage bar so they can see it go up as they're reviewing. So those all have been really helpful during this process.
Awesome. I think one of the neat things that people are discovering is that discovery software is useful beyond the discovery phase. So I want to turn to our panelists, and I'll start with Dave. Are you finding Everlaw useful once you've moved beyond discovery?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good. There are a couple things that I use it for in the motion drafting phase. One, as I already talked about, is just while I'm reviewing documents, I'm tagging things as like hot docs, warm, cold, whatever. So if I'm doing an MSJ on all of my claims, I can go back and look at what I've coded as hot, and I can focus on those. Or I can look at what I've already put in the, like, this is a document that attaches to my MSJ folder. And then you can do inline notes in deposition transcripts, for example, to kind of flag, okay, this is the piece of depo testimony that is going to be useful for this, that, and the other. The other thing I just mentioned too is that in terms of coding, you know, as Leon was talking about, you can use like a really, it's up to you what you want to use coding for. I also, where we have complex cases where we have a number of different claims that have different facts that are relevant, I'll code like, okay, this is my, you know, for claim 1, this doc is useful for claim 2, this doc is useful for claim 3. And so then I can literally go in and I can sort like, what are the hot docs that are coded claim 3? And that really makes the drafting process a lot easier for things like motions, for like dispositive motions.
Awesome. Leon, are you using Everlaw beyond the discovery phase, and how do you use it in in that stage?
A little bit. We're really in the thick of the discovery phase, so that's been the main focus. I do really like the storyboard feature and creating like a case timeline. The current case I work on has a really is over a series of decades, so it's been really helpful from documentation to just kind of see how it progresses, and just creating a more concise way to view it.
Awesome. And Rachel, I know you've talked a little bit about some of the things that you're using, but do you have any way that you're using Everlaw beyond the discovery phase?
So we have, the case where we got the furthest along settled before we went to trial. So we didn't use it for trial. And we were also very much learning to use Everlaw. I mean, we're still learning. It's a constant learning process, but we didn't, get to that point. And some of the tools that exist now didn't exist at that time that we might want to try. I can say that, we've used it to, let's see, well, I guess depositions are part of discovery, but it's been nice to be able to do like a natural language search for the deponent and pull up documents that you might not have seen before. And just make sure that you know what the universe is of stuff you're going to use. We have uploaded transcripts and started to, tag bits of them as going to be important. We use it a lot in the pre-filing part of our cases. Sometimes we have a big dump of like public disclosure that we want to look at and evaluate what the claims might be from there. And then the other thing that we've been experimenting with using Story Builder for is to kind of support or disprove what I think of in my head as non-legal themes with the case. Like, the defense to your retaliation claims might be that your clients were all bad workers. And so, you might want to have some stuff that you're identifying that say, oh, my clients were good workers. But it's not actually like a claim that people have.
Awesome. So that's a great segue into our next question. And we have a question from the audience that goes along with this. For the legal aid staff, I guess that would be anyone in your organization. How did you learn how to use Everlaw? And then our official question is, how have you leveraged Everlaw's training and support? And Rachel, you mentioned that features were not available in the beginning that are available now. So if you could talk about how you started, if you had support or used any kind of support to learn those new features.
Yeah, so Everlaw did a couple of custom trainings specifically for CLS and has been very willing to come back and do more on specific topics. So as we've developed some expertise, we've said, hey, can you do a training on this specific topic? And so that's been helpful. Generally, we've kind of been like, jump right in and do it. So you get some data, you get it uploaded, and then you learn some stuff, right? You learn, oh, I shouldn't have maybe uploaded it that way, or the next time, because there's only so much learning you can do in advance before you start operating something, before you realize that everything you don't know about it. So a lot of what we've done is trial and error, but Everlaw's help folks have been really, really useful. Like this, 9,000 page email that I was referencing. I think I emailed help and I was like, something is going wrong here. I can't get the unitization to work right. And the person who helped me actually called me on Monday and said, I spent all weekend working on this because it was a really interesting problem. And that didn't cost us anything. I mean, that was completely free. So the level of tech support and assistance has just been unmatched by any other software company I've ever dealt with. We've used them to upload documents when we weren't sure how to upload them. They changed the ability to upload kind of loose PDFs that weren't processed during the course of this one case we were working on, and that's a lot of what we get from other folks. We don't get a lot of load files. So just kind of learning that. And anytime I've had a question, I've just reached out to the help desk and they've said, oh, this is how you can fix it. They don't just send me to some help page, which they also have a really extensive help page, which is easy to read and easy to understand, and videos. But when I have a specific question, I haven't just been referred back to that information. I've actually gotten a person who gave me real real advice. The other thing that they helped us do on one occasion is they helped us write an eDiscovery agreement for use with opposing counsel. You know, we sent them what we thought was right, and they said, "Oh, you need to add these other things," and helped us make sure that the agreement, the SI agreement, required things to be produced in a way that was going to come to us and be easier to use.
Awesome. So Dave, any thoughts on how you've leveraged training and support, or how your staff has been trained on using Everlaw?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that my tech proficiency is probably higher than most folks, and I had some experience in law school using a couple of other eDiscovery platforms in an eDiscovery course that I took. So I kind of came in with some background knowledge that was pretty useful. I was basically self-taught on Everlaw. I referenced they have a YouTube page where they have like pretty granular, like specific trainings that they have on how to do, basic functions, and it walks you through kind of step by step. If you're not familiar with the terminology that Everlaw uses for something, that's kind of how I've done that. Like, oh, I need to do a doc production. Let me look at their video on doc production. I've also been to, they do somewhat regularly, like just trainings for everyone who has Everlaw on various features. And I've sat in on a few of those that have been kind of broadening my kind of understanding of what the platform has and can do. And that's been useful as well. I think one thing that I'd say is like, it's very easy to kind of go in with like this limited scope of like, I'm going to use Everlaw for this. And if that's all you want to do, that's all you need to know, that's fine. But if you want to understand more about what you can do, the training and resources have been there, which has been really cool.
Awesome. And Leon, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about your organization's use of training and support.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the trial and error at the beginning, just as what happens when you're using any new technology. What we did is we got access to Everlaw and then went through that resource page and picked out kind of the main videos that seemed the most helpful. So like production, document review, general interface understanding. I probably at multiple points in the case contacted IT like once a day, just because things come up and sometimes you have questions and they're just so responsive. They're beyond helpful. I've called and emailed, and it's always been the easiest way to get anything resolved when I'm struggling with something. I think one time I was on the phone with a guy and he's like, "Yeah, I don't even know how you guys did this. It was like such an odd situation, and it was an issue with the production itself. It was so bizarre." Um, and so it's been super helpful throughout the process. And then for more like general case management, and when we've received these larger discoveries, reaching out to Joanne has been really, really helpful about like what our options are. We've worked with the data operations team as well to figure out what we can do. So there's been really a variety of training and support throughout the whole process. That's been super, super helpful.
Awesome. So I wanted to open this up to any of our panelists. How do you and your organization use or plan to use AI in your work through Everlaw or through other tools, if at all? So basically, I'm asking, are you using the AI feature, and do you plan to use it in the future, or are you adopting AI in other tools?
I mean, we're not really using AI stuff right now. I think I need to talk to Joanne about maybe getting that in our Everlaw, because I have a couple of things I want to do. But I think for me, I would be interested in like summarizing documents that are particularly long, the way you might ask a law clerk to summarize like a depo transcript or something like that. The other thing that I'm particularly interested in that might be useful in my practice is the translation as well. That's something that comes up quite a bit.
We've used it pretty minimally. We set some internal office policies about AI use. So we mostly used the review version, and that's been helpful. We've done that kind of document summary, especially for longer ones. It's been really helpful, and it kind of breaks it down in like chunks, which is great. Um, and so we've been liking that, and we've mostly just been kind of like messing around to see what we can do and how we want to implement it within our discovery process.
We're not there yet. We haven't, we have had several internal discussions about whether to use sort of our trial run with the AI and when's the right time and what's the right case and the amount of data that we could get an effective sense of how well it works. And so we just haven't hit that sweet spot where we have the right part of the case, the right kind of data, and the right time to do the review.
Awesome. So we have a last question, official question, and then we're going to get to our audience questions. And this is pretty unusual that a company wants someone to ask what they're doing wrong or that they could do better. So for our panelists, what's one thing you wish that Everlaw did better?
I wish that the character building part of it in Story Builder were a little more case mappy, like having to create a tag for a plaintiff and then build the plaintiff into the Story Builder. Like I kind of wish that were a little more meshed.
We haven't totally utilized it that much, but the data clustering is a little, I think, harder to be intuitive about. It also could just be our case is just not fit for that tool, which is a high possibility as well. So I think that would be my one critique.
I think for me, one thing, and I'm looking and I'm seeing that this may be different now. When I started using Everlaw a few years ago, I was looking at the trainings, and all the trainings seemed to be like, here's how to do this thing, here's how to do this thing, here's how to do this thing. But there wasn't like a big kind of overall sample workflow training, which is something that I think would be useful. It looks like there's some trainings on the YouTube now that might cover that, so I don't want to say that that's currently what it is, but that was just or there could have been something that I totally missed as well, but that was a difficulty that I had when I started.
Awesome. Well, that's, it's
Well,
always interesting to hear how people would use. Joanne, did you have something to add?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to jump into, first of all, say thank you for the feedback. It's always like the reason we put this in is just so folks know, we have new release cycles every 4 weeks, which I think is somewhat unusual in the eDiscovery industry. So we are always updating the product and improving it and putting out, we have like really detailed release notes and features. Sometimes it can be a challenge to keep up with because, there are continued improvements to the platform, but we are a really customer-centric company, and we really always are looking for more feedback on how we can make the platform more useful for folks. So the feedback is always welcome, and hopefully that also helps folks recognize like this is not a static platform, it's something that will continue to improve. And Dave, to your point on the training center, we actually just went through a huge overhaul to make it much more workflow focused. So if you're new to Everlaw, it's like, here's the intros, here's the first things that you should take. If you're really looking to do productions or you're really looking to do certain types of review, it's our user ed team just went through a big process of that. So check that out and give me feedback.
Awesome. So getting to our audience questions, what makes Everlaw different from competitors with similar AI-based services? I'll let Joanne field that one, and then if panelists have any thoughts.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to speak through. I mean, we're very much in the early stages of AI for legal use, right? So I think everyone sort of has their flashy, shiny thing, and it's a bit of a challenge, and I think it'll take some time for consolidation to happen in this space. I'll tell you what we think is really valuable about the AI tools that we have, right? So first of all, you don't have to use AI to use Everlaw, right? So if you have an AI policy or you're a more conservative organization, it is not, generative AI in particular is not built into the base platform. It is an optional add-on. we went through a year-long beta of this product with more than 100 beta users, and I mean, the current version of the AI assistant is almost unrecognizable from the first version of the beta that came out. So we really did a lot of listening, a lot of understanding of what would be useful, and a lot of that was learning to use it less as sort of the open text box that people are getting used to sort of seeing as an AI, and really honing it to specific legal use cases. So being integrated into an eDiscovery platform, having purpose-built tasks is really useful. A good example of this is in our writing assistant. You can ask it for a custom task, which is basically a natural language prompt, right? That you sort of try to prompt and use as much detail as you can. But there are also templates. If you want to build a factual background, a cast of characters, a statement of facts, there are a few of them that we actually have honed the model to do really well for those specific types of tasks. So you don't have to come up with your own prompt. It'll be pre-inserted based on, a very common type of legal task to get you hopefully the best outcome. And in that particular feature, it'll actually create the AI generated summary or factual background, etc. And if you don't like it, if it doesn't do the job that you want it to do as a first draft, there's a button to click to insert that into your drafting tool, and you can rewrite the prompt, you can tweak it, you can add evidence to pull from, etc., until you like it enough to actually work with it as your draft. So you don't have to quote pay or use the credits that you get until you're happy with that first draft. So there's just a lot of these sort of legal use cases built in to doing it, and also privacy and security by design, right? So no training, using your documents or your prompts, all within the four corners of the document and the document corpus. Just a lot of guardrails to, keep the tool from, hallucinating to the extent possible with Gen AI, and to make it really purpose-built for legal needs.
Awesome. So another question we have, the audience member points out that a legal colleague pointed them to check out Everlaw, and she says they say it sounds like an amazing application for their legal team. However, they're saying that they're on the admin compliance side of things, and they're wondering if Everlaw could be used to help manage interdepartmental documents such as updates to a case handling manual, training videos, emails, or grants management.
I'm happy to I'd actually love to hear what the panelists' response to this are, if that seems sort of useful for these sort of things. I will, from a general programmatic perspective, we have a number of nonprofit organizations that use Everlaw for internal investigations. It's actually what a lot of our corporate clients use it for. This doesn't sound like it's as much that as sort of knowledge base management. I will say we are an eDiscovery platform, so that is probably not what we're purpose built for. There's no reason in particular you couldn't use Everlaw for that, but I think you'd want to really sort of interrogate what features you're looking for. If it's purely hosting documents, there's probably better tools. If it is purely sort of knowledge management, it's going to be a little bit of a hack compared to something where you really want to review a large corpus of data. You want to find trends and patterns among that data set, and you want to be able to annotate and collaborate, etc. So I think it probably is going to vary case by case.
Any thoughts from the panelists before we go to the next question?
I'd just second all of that.
Awesome. All right. And then we had a question of they would love to learn more about using Everlaw during a deposition. Anyone want to jump in on that one?
I guess I can say when I have used Everlaw for depositions, typically I use it more in the depo prep stage, where I will create my binder that has all my depo exhibits, and then I'll export that. The cool thing is you can take a binder and then you can just download everything in the binder and have on your desktop just a folder that has all these documents in them. So you don't need to be connected to Everlaw or online. If you are, taking a depo where you may not have internet access, or you may have spotty internet access, or may not have sufficient internet access to look at a bunch of really big documents, et cetera, et cetera. I have used it a little bit during depositions. The keyword search I think is really useful. So, one example, I had a deposition where I was deposing the head of a state agency, and he used some piece of jargon that I didn't quite understand, but I remembered hearing before. And so I was able to go in and keyword search that piece of jargon in like our big, 200 and or 23,000 page, document binder or document set, and like find examples of it being used so that I had a little bit more context of like, oh, this is how this agency thinks about like what this term means. This gives me a little bit more context to ask better questions. And that's something I wouldn't try to do while you were deposing someone, but if you're taking a 10-minute bathroom break or something during a depo, you can absolutely do that.
Awesome. Well, there are no more questions in the chat. Let's just give a real quick shout for if anybody has a last question that we can squeeze in before it's time to go. Otherwise, well, thank you so much to our panelists for being here. Thank you, Joanne, for bringing this, for jumping in. This whole session is a result of a conversation that started on our listserv. And hearing how other organizations are using the program, I think, is one of the best ways for organizations to decide if they should investigate further. So thank you for everyone for being here.